In Nigeria, as Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirms 304 new cases. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has dragged President Buhari to court over loans obtained by his administration. In international news, relationship between the United Kingdom and China heading for the abyss. And in sport, FIFA condemns Swiss probe, Infantino remains president.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria is now gradually experiencing a decline in the daily number of recorded cases of coronavirus infections. Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed 304 new cases in 15 states, including Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory. NCDC confirmed this is the latest or the lowest number in 2 weeks. Sunday's figure is slightly lower than cases recorded on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This latest figure now brings to 43,841 the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country. NCDC further confirmed 888 infected persons have so far died from the virus, and more than 20,000 patients have been discharged. Nigeria has tested about 280,000 of its 200 million population. Meanwhile, parents of private school students in Ogun State are protesting against a 25,000 naira fee for returning boarding students have been asked to pay for a coronavirus test. Ekiti State Task Force on COVID-19 has shuttered a popular hotel in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, for allegedly faulting government's measures aimed at curtailing the spread of the virus. The Light Hotel and Suites got in trouble when it allegedly hosted a large wedding party attended by a crowd of guests that did not observe physical distancing. The task force also sealed off the hotel for allegedly breaching government's order on lockdown during weekends. It was reported that a wedding party abruptly disbanded when the task force arrived. Many guests were said to have fled when they saw the security men. Coordinator of the Ekiti State's COVID-19 Task Force, Professor Bolaji Aluko, said the operatives were tipped off that the hotel broke the law by hosting more than 20 persons at the party. He said task force officials met the guests drinking and eating at the hotel. Aluko reminded hotels and other hospitality establishments that the government's directives call for 20 or fewer persons at social gatherings like weddings, burials, and other parties. He also says such gatherings must comply with 6 feet physical distancing, wearing a face mask, and that hotels must provide soap and water for hand washing at the events. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has gone to court to demand that President Buhari publish the details of loans obtained by his government since he assumed office in 2015. SERAP says the details should include interest rate, total amount of debt incurred, as well as projects the loans were spent on. SERAP says Nigerians need to know the names of countries and bodies that have given the loans, the payment conditions, whether any public officers solicited or received bribes in the negotiations for any of the loans, and if there is plan to audit the spending of the loans. The group says transparency would ensure that loans are not diverted to private pockets, increase public trust that these loans will be used to benefit Nigerians, provide good value for money, and reassure Nigerians' creditors. SERAP noted that legal action is permitted under the Freedom of Information Act, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the UN Convention Against Corruption, to which Nigeria is a state party. The COVID-19 cases growing in the country, measures to contain the spread, has plunged many businesses and industries into financial chaos. And correspondent Deji Badmus tells us about one sector that has been decimated by the pandemic.
Before the outbreak of COVID-19, UKChina's car dealership was a relatively thriving enterprise. He says he used to sell at least 3 cars in a week. that since late March, when the government imposed a lockdown on the country to check the spread of COVID-19, things have been drab for him and many others in his line of business. He says selling just a single car now is quite tough.
Business is not flowing, economy is not moving. So we car dealers are not finding it funny. How many people has money to come and buy a car? So the money is no longer there like it used to be. So it's really affecting our business actually.
Even though the government has since eased on the lockdown and allowed businesses to resume, in Lagos, the opening hours for car dealerships and other businesses have been cut short as a strategy by the government of the city to reduce social interactions to keep the spread of the virus in check. By the new rule, car dealerships are only allowed to open between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. 3 times a week. Iwoha says while the reduction in the hours of operations is affecting their business, it's the state of the economy that is the problem.
I know that the economy is not moving well. So you have affected the economy. So even if we are selling every day, from normal time by 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, I don't think it can improve a little bit, but it will not be the way, the way it's supposed to be. The way we have been selling before. Let's say 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Nigeria's economy was actually struggling before COVID-19 struck, compounding an already tenuous situation for the country. Foreign trade dropped by 18% in the first quarter of the year, with total imports decreasing by over 20%. The result of the second quarter will certainly be worse because of the pandemic. Added to that is the devaluation of the local currency, which has driven up the price of imports like cars.
Like now, exchange rate is of nearly 400 and something per dollar. Before this COVID, I was talking about 300 and something, 360 per dollar. And the dollar is 460. If you use a 460 to 480 to buy a car, the price always go up. So somebody who doesn't have money to buy a car when the dollar was 360, what do you think for now? The car have gone up, clearing have gone up, so everything have gone up. So it's not easy.
What we've seen in the past couple of months as a result of COVID-19 is as family incomes decline, as inflation erodes the value of the purchasing power of their income, more and more people are focusing on basic needs. And therefore, the demand for cars has actually come down.
For now, the dealers say they're only managing to get by. And for someone like Iwoha, he's resigned to the fact that if the state of the economy does not improve, it will be difficult to get buyers for his cars.
Coming up, African stories. Kenya and Rwanda reopened their airports to international commercial flights amid COVID-19. And later, international news. China-UK relations soaring over Huawei and human rights issues.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Jet noise has begun roaring again at Rwanda's Kigali International Airport after the government reopened terminals on Saturday. The airport was closed for all passenger flight operations in March as a result of COVID-19.
The measures extend far beyond what the naked eye can see, and key locations like Bourbon Coffee that used to serve more than 200 people every day are particularly careful as operations are set to resume at the airport.
Yes, so far I think we are about 98% in terms of preparation towards the COVID-19 preventive measures. Our preparation measures, we routed them from the ones from Ministry of Health and the airport regulations. So we are capable now to welcome and receive the guests and give them the best service. We tried to put the social distancing where in between the tables there is 1.5 meter and between the chairs there is 1 meter. So in terms of social distancing in the sitting area, we are well prepared.
Customers at Bourbon Coffee will no longer use the usual menus to place orders. Rather, their phones and all transactions are cashless. On board Rwandair's planes, measures will also be enforced.
We've made sure that the aircraft is deeply cleaned after each flight, disinfected and deeply cleaned. On board our aircraft, all our aircrafts are fitted with HEPA filters, which ensure that all the germs and viruses are extracted from the cabin, so the cabin air is safe to breathe. We've also modified our menus on board to avoid, to try and reduce the contact between our crew and the passengers as much as possible. So you'll see a change in the menu. That's again to protect our passengers and crew members as well. Another thing is we are also implementing a policy of 1 piece of cabin luggage per passenger in order to avoid congestion on the aisles and people touching too many bags on board as well.
Health officials say they are not worried about passenger flights resuming because they are ready for them. We are not worried about flights resuming at the airport. If anything, we are fortunate to be able to assess things all these months after operations were suspended and decide on how to proceed. If we notice a problem, we will sit and decide on how to deal with it. If flights are to be reduced or increased depending on the data coming in, which is what we base our decisions on. Rwandair is one of 7 airlines that will be using the Kigali International Airport and had been flying to 29 destinations globally with 12 aircraft that include 2 Airbus A330s able to fly to almost anywhere in the world. However, not all routes will initially be resumed.
Kenya Transport Ministry has also cleared 11 countries for resumption of international flights to Kenya as airports reopened on Saturday. Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia says passengers from the selected countries will be exempted from the mandatory quarantine if they tested negative for COVID-19 96 hours before travel and exhibits no symptoms of the virus. The reopening is being crafted with a raft of measures that will guide air travel operations. The 11 countries being cleared are China, South Korea, Japan, Canada, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, Switzerland, Rwanda, Uganda, Namibia, and Morocco. Macharia said these countries have exhibited mild or limited community transmissions or they have declining cases. South Africa's hospitality industry has taken a beating since COVID-19 began ravaging the country's tourism sector in March. The Tourism Business Council of South Africa says as of May, income for the hospitality industry had decreased 98%. And correspondent Angela Coppola has the details.
The situation is disastrous for the South African tourism sector. Seasonally adjusted income from accommodation decreased by 96.8% in April and by another 20.7% in May. And the relaxation of regulations to allow domestic business travel hasn't had any meaningful impact either.
Hotels are operating at less than 4%. So it means that there isn't anything that's flowing into hotels. In fact, many hotels are still not open because it's just not worth it to operate a large property, for 4% occupancy. It makes no sense. So as much as, we do appreciate the business travel being open, it will be better complemented by the opening of leisure travel and also allowing people to cross provincial borders.
The restaurant sector is also in turmoil. The issue is the alcohol sales ban and the nighttime curfew. and the lack of clear communication between government and the industry.
There's a complete inability to work with us to look at solutions. If you can't lift the liquor ban, then help us financially. If you don't have funding and there's no resources, look at the components that you can give us relief on. What is the deciding factor in a restaurant to keep it open or closed? It is the lease. So help us with the leases. Allow our businesses to stay open and allow both the landlord to benefit and ourselves to keep doors open and keep people employed. So we put this in a memorandum where we wrote to the President.
The tourism and hospitality sectors are ready to welcome guests back. Safety protocols have been implemented that equal or surpass what other open economic sectors have introduced.
Demand is going to be a challenge, but it's better to look for customers than not to operate at all. We know how to do that, and we know how to do that safely. And another thing that's important, we have developed protocols that ensures that tourism is conducted in a safe way. Just like many other sectors across South Africa and many other sectors in the world.
The restaurant sector has morphed itself several times during the lockdown.
First, we have been made into delivery services, then into takeaways. Then we had to become bottle stores. Then we had to become bottle stores with coffee shops. Then the minute we started getting people back into our restaurants, they cut the curfew. And at every single turn, there's a challenge every day that the restaurant sector's met with.
The devastation has been significant. In the tourism sector alone, it's estimated that some 300,000 jobs have already been lost. In the restaurant industry, the number of shuttered-up shops is silent testimony to the damage that's been caused. Business owners simply want to start operating with all the right protocols in place.
When we return, international news. China-UK relations soaring over Huawei and human rights issues. And later, sports. FIFA condemns Swiss probe. Infantino remains president.
You are watching AM.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Brazil has been gradually reopening its largest city, Sao Paulo, as it allows shops and malls to resume businesses after 2 months of quarantine orders that were not strictly enforced despite the ravaging coronavirus pandemic there. Now the city subway system has resumed, and correspondent Paulo Cabra tells us more.
As life transitions into a new normal, public transportation is getting busy again on São Paulo's metropolitan trains. Ending the city's metro, ridership has been gradually recovering after a severe drop during the months of stricter social distancing measures.
My personal feeling is that about 70% of the people are back now to the trains. In the beginning, I think there was a drop of 70%, but part of the people are back.
Additional health and safety protocols are in place, but many people are still afraid to get back on board.
I don't feel safe, even knowing that trains are being cleaned more frequently. Many people are not respecting protocols.
Railways and subways have high fixed costs that can't be slashed when the number of passengers using them tumbles, as it has during the pandemic. In Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, ridership plunged by 74% from the same time last year. But infrastructure has to be maintained, regardless of passenger volume.
According to the Rail Industry Association, ANP Trilhos, less than 1/3 of Brazil's commuter trains were taken out of circulation during the pandemic, despite the 3/4 drop in passengers. It's one reason for losses estimated at $750 million, which could hinder the sector's capacity for future investment or even day-to-day operations.
The restart will be slow. I really believe that you have a new normal, because in our system 70% of the trips are to work. After the pandemic, probably between 10-20% of the workers will keep the home office, so we will lose passengers.
The Union of São Paulo's subway workers say its members will resist, with strikes if necessary, what they see as attempts to get them to foot the bill for the revenue losses.
Infelizmente, a direção do metrô e o governo...
The state government and the directors of metro company are trying to open up salary and benefits negotiation now during the pandemic. We see that as an attempt to use this situation to disrespect our agreements and to slash workers' rights.
The COVID-19 pandemic has hit nearly every sector of the economy, with the rail transportation no exception. Now, it's not so much of a question of whether it will survive, but how badly battered it will emerge on the other side.
The chasm is deepening between the United Kingdom and China over the country's disputes on tech giant Huawei and issues of human rights abuses in Pyongyang. China's ambassador to the UK addressed the two countries' poisoned relations in London. Respondent Dan Williams reports.
At a critical, historic juncture. That was how Ambassador Liu Xiaoming framed the current state of China-UK relations. It's been 5 years since the two countries declared a golden era between them. That's taken quite a hit over the past few weeks.
As the State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi said in his telephone conversation with the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, that for the UK, China is an opportunity rather than a threat, a factor for growth rather than a cause for decline, a solution rather than a challenge or risk. However, there have been major changes and serious deviation in UK's perception and definition of China. This is particularly evidenced by the recent ban on Huawei.
Ambassador Liu highlighted China and Britain's shared global responsibilities and agendas. He added that Chinese investment confidence needed to be restored, calling the UK's move to ban Huawei from its 5G network discrimination.
The issue of Huawei is not about how the UK sees and deals with a Chinese company. It's about how the UK sees and deals with China. Does it see China as an opportunity or partner, or a threat or rival? Does it see China as a friendly country or a hostile or potentially hostile state? The UK leaders have said on many occasions that they want to build a balanced, positive and constructive China-UK relationship. We hope they will match their words with actions.
Liu urged the UK to resist pressure from foreign powers, namely the United States, saying that Great Britain can't be great without an independent foreign policy.
The US has suffered its biggest economic decline in the second quarter of 2020 since the government began recording the index after World War II, as the novel coronavirus continues to ravage the economy. The pandemic has caused businesses to close and tens of millions of workers have lost their jobs. Official data showed on Thursday America's GDP plunged 33%, following a 5% decline in the first quarter. Market watchers expected the historic crash in the second quarter as economists predicted contractions of 34.5%.
The U.S. economy shrank nearly 33% in the second quarter of the year. It was the worst decline since records began in 1947, driven mostly by a drop in consumer spending. Stay-at-home orders imposed by many American states to curb the coronavirus have hit the catering, retail, and tourist industries. Hopeful signs of economic recovery in May and June weakened because of a resurgence of cases. More than 1.4 million people have filed new unemployment claims, marking the second consecutive weekly increase.
Up next, sport. FIFA condemns Swiss probe, says Infantino remains president. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, World Football Governing Body FIFA has reiterated that its president, Gianni Infantino, will continue as president. FIFA says it is not moved by the Swiss probe because it is not necessary. Special Prosecutor Stephen Keller started proceedings on Thursday as part of an investigation into suspected collusion between Infantino and Switzerland's Attorney General, Marco Rubio. FC Porto is the champion of the Portuguese Cup for the 17th time. Democratic Republic of Congo international champion Chancellor Bebe scored twice as FC Porto defeated old rivals Benfica 2-1 on Saturday. Porto last won the double in 2011. In another game, Paris Saint-Germain striker Neymar celebrates his club's League Cup final victory over Lyon. Lyon are now facing the first season without European football since 1996 and 97 unless they win this season Champions League. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.